Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't himself. Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
Insiders are claiming that Oprah Winfrey has been arrested by the FBI after a leaked photograph allegedly surfaced, placing her in a disturbing situation involving one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims on his private island. According to these reports, the image is now circulating among alleged victims themselves, spreading in real time, bypassing any official channels that might otherwise suppress it. But here's where the contradiction hits. Oprah Winfrey has managed to avoid every major scandal that has ever come close to her name. From John of God to Harvey Weinstein to the Epstein files themselves, where her name reportedly appeared multiple times, she has always walked away untouched. No lasting damage. Often not even a serious public relations crisis. So now, if these claims are true, if there is an arrest, if the photo exists, the real question is not whether the situation looks bad. The real question is, will this time be different? Or will the same system that has protected her for years find a way to do it again?
You have a couple of pets as well,
Yeah.
a dog and a cat with interesting names, to say the least.
Yeah. That's Oprah.
That's Oprah. Okay.
Let's be clear about what is actually known at this moment. There has been no confirmed FBI press release verifying the arrest of Oprah Winfrey. What we are hearing comes from insider claims, from alleged victims communicating among themselves, from information moving through unofficial channels that do not wait for formal confirmation. But the alleged photograph is what has turned this into a potential explosion. Sources familiar with the situation claim the image places Oprah Winfrey in a scenario involving harm toward one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, circumstances that, if true, could not simply be dismissed as poor judgment or coincidence. And here is what makes this even more volatile. The alleged victims are not waiting. They are reportedly releasing material themselves. More images, more testimonies, more fragments of a timeline that some believe has been buried for years. This is where the pressure begins. Because Oprah Winfrey has faced serious associations before. And every time, the story faded while her reputation remained intact. But this situation feels different. And it is not just about one celebrity or one image. It is about a pattern that has been visible for more than a decade. Take John of God, for example. Oprah Winfrey featured him on her show in 2010 and again in 2012, calling him inspiring and giving him global exposure. Later, he was convicted of horrific abuses involving hundreds of women. After his conviction, Oprah released a carefully worded statement expressing sympathy for the victims, distancing herself from someone she had once helped elevate. Then there is Harvey Weinstein. For years, Oprah Winfrey appeared alongside him at high-profile events, publicly embracing him and lending credibility at a time when many in the industry already had concerns. When the allegations finally erupted, she stated that she had been processing the situation, despite the fact that rumors had circulated in Hollywood for decades.
That moment completely changed my career. It made people look down on me.
Now place those associations side by side. A so-called spiritual healer later convicted of serial abuse. A powerful producer later convicted of similar crimes. In both cases, Oprah Winfrey stood close enough to be photographed, quoted, and connected, close enough to provide something both men desperately needed: legitimacy. That alone raises questions. But then you add the Epstein files. Her name reportedly appears multiple times. What those mentions actually say remains unknown. The December 2025 release from the Department of Justice included more than 550 pages that were completely blacked out. Not partially redacted. Entire pages, one after another, covered in solid black. And somewhere within those redactions, Oprah Winfrey's name exists without context, without explanation. This is where the story starts to feel unstable. The same government that released thousands of pages of documents also concealed hundreds more. The same Department of Justice that promised transparency allowed Ghislaine Maxwell a 2-day interview with senior officials, during which she denied everything. She even claimed that the widely known photograph of Prince Andrew with Virginia Giuffre was fake. Despite being a convicted perjurer serving a 20-year sentence, she was still given a platform to challenge the narrative. So ask yourself this: if the system can protect Ghislaine Maxwell, if it can shield figures like Prince Andrew, even after documented contradictions, why would it treat Oprah Winfrey any differently? That is not paranoia. That is pattern recognition.
As we've seen dozens of new photos we haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high-profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically two for the public interest, and that is President Clinton and President.
The pattern is disturbing. Prince Andrew stayed at Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion for an entire week in December 2010, long after Epstein was already a registered offender. Emails later revealed show Prince Andrew urging Epstein to make sure every public statement cleared his name. "I can't take any more of this, my end," he wrote. And then there is the photograph. Jeffrey Epstein himself acknowledged it. "Yes, she was on my plane, and yes, she had her picture taken with Andrew, as many of my employees have." That statement did not come from a tabloid. It did not come from an accuser. It came directly from Epstein, treating the image as routine, almost insignificant. Just another snapshot in a revolving door of powerful men and vulnerable young women. So what happened to Prince Andrew? He stepped back from royal duties. He settled a civil lawsuit, but he faced no criminal charges. The system exposed the contradiction. The emails suggested he was not telling the truth, and yet there were no real consequences.
It didn't last very long, the whole entire procedure. It was disgusting. He wasn't mean or anything, but he got up and he said thanks and walked out, and I sat there in bed just horrified and ashamed. It was a wicked time in my life. It was a really scary time in my life. I had just been abused by a member of a royal family.
That is the precedent hanging over Oprah Winfrey right now. The system can expose powerful individuals. It has the documents, the emails, the photographs, the flight logs. It revealed that Prince Andrew's version of events did not fully hold up. But exposure and accountability are not the same thing. And that second part, accountability, is where the system keeps failing. So when insiders claim the FBI has arrested Oprah Winfrey, and when alleged victims say there is a photograph that changes everything, the real tension is not about whether evidence exists. The real question is, will the evidence actually matter? Because we have seen this pattern before. Documents are released, names surface, public outrage builds, and then slowly the story fades, while lawyers, publicists, and powerful institutions step in to control the damage. Now consider the victims. Maria Farmer filed a criminal complaint against Jeffrey Epstein with the FBI on September 3, 1996. She alleged that Epstein stole photographs of her underage sisters and threatened her. That complaint remained buried in FBI files for nearly 30 years. It was only made public in the December 2025 document release. Her sister, Annie Farmer, later stated she was just 16 when Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell abused her. When she saw the document, the one the FBI had held for decades, her response was simple and devastating. They had it this whole time. That raises a chilling question. How many people were harmed after that complaint was filed? That is not speculation. It is a direct challenge to institutions that had the power to act and didn't.
Interview is and never was part of the Epstein files. She was sentenced in 2025. This was an interview by Trump's lawyer to protect Trump from the fallout about the Epstein files. What this really is nothing but a sketchy PR stunt by the Department of Justice. And we have seen this movie before. The Maxwell interview is to the Epstein files what the Barr letter was to the Mueller investigation.
Now things appear to be shifting. Victims are no longer waiting for official channels. They are reportedly releasing evidence themselves. The alleged photograph involving Oprah Winfrey is said to be just the beginning. Sources tracking these leaks claim more images remain in private hands. More testimony is being prepared. More names could emerge. This is not a controlled release from the Department of Justice. This is uncontrolled. A flood of information from people who believe they were ignored for decades. And they are directing it straight at the celebrities and powerful figures they believe were connected to Jeffrey Epstein's network. Oprah Winfrey is not the only name being discussed, but she is the most prominent. She carries enormous cultural influence, and she has avoided lasting damage every single time. So where does that leave us? There are claims of an arrest. There are allegations of a photograph. There are victims pushing information into the public space as quickly as possible. And there is a documented history of Oprah Winfrey being associated with individuals later exposed as abusers, from John of God to Harvey Weinstein to mentions within the Epstein files. That is not speculation. That is a timeline. The real question is whether this moment breaks that pattern, or simply becomes another chapter in a long list of controversies she ultimately survives. Because we have seen this before. Outrage rises, then fades. Institutions delay, redact, and protect. An arrest only changes things if it leads to real consequences, and that remains uncertain.
And then we said, but did you pay her fairly? And then he said, I paid her more than she's ever made.
What happens next depends on two key factors. First, whether the alleged photograph is verified and credible beyond public speculation. Second, whether the same Department of Justice involved here, the one that released over 550 fully redacted pages and allowed Ghislaine Maxwell to speak despite her conviction, will act differently this time. It is one institution with two very different faces, one that exposes and one that conceals. Which version shows up in this case will determine everything. Because history has already shown us something important. A powerful figure can be linked to Jeffrey Epstein's own records, caught in contradictions, and still face no real consequences. That reality explains why many believe Oprah Winfrey could walk away again. So if these claims are true, if there is an arrest, if there is evidence, the reaction from those watching is not just shock. It is a familiar, uneasy feeling. Because they have seen this story before. The difference this time will depend on whether the system finally acts, or once again protects. And right now, that answer is far from clear.
So first, I think we just have to say, and you set it up well, there are two real storylines here. One is what is in these files that we can see and that we can actually learn. We're going to get on that first. There's also the story about what is not in these files or what is heavily redacted, because that is also sparking.
Wait, let me show you exactly how this machine operates. There is a documented case of a powerful figure being caught in a lie using Prince Andrew's own connection to Jeffrey Epstein's files. In December 2010, Prince Andrew stayed at Epstein's New York mansion for an entire week, long after Epstein was already a registered offender. Everyone knew, and yet he stayed anyway. When Virginia Giuffre's allegations became public, Prince Andrew went on television and denied ever meeting her. He even claimed the now infamous photograph was fake. But the emails tell a completely different story. In March 2011, Prince Andrew wrote to Epstein, using the handle The Duke, and said, "Please make sure that every statement or legal letter clearly states that I am not involved. I can't take any more of this at my end." Epstein responded, and casually confirmed the photo was real. "Yes, she was on my plane, and yes, she had her picture taken with Andrew, as many of my employees have." That is Epstein himself, not a victim, not a tabloid, treating the image as routine, almost meaningless. So the exposure mechanism worked perfectly. The emails proved Prince Andrew lied. The photograph was authentic. And what happened next? He stepped back from public duties. He settled a lawsuit for an undisclosed amount. No criminal charges. No prison time. No real consequences. That is the template. A powerful figure gets exposed. Evidence surfaces. Pressure builds. Then the system absorbs it and the figure walks away. And that is exactly why Oprah Winfrey could escape again, even with an arrest and a photograph. Because the system has already shown us how this story ends. It showed us with Prince Andrew. It showed us with Jeffrey Epstein himself, who secured a controversial plea deal in 2008 and served just 13 months with work release privileges that allowed him to maintain much of his lifestyle.
He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth, and I know that's me.
That truth, as Virginia Giuffre tells it in her first interview on British soil, is that she was forced to have with Prince Andrew when she was 17 years old.
Now look at what the government released in December 2025. Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, promising full transparency. That was the expectation. And what did the public actually receive? Thousands of pages, yes, but also more than 550 pages completely blacked out. Not lightly redacted. Entire pages, one after another, covered in solid black ink. A 119-page grand jury document? Gone. Another 255-page file? Gone. The United States Department of Justice claimed no politicians' names were redacted, but refused to clarify whose names were hidden, or why a law demanding transparency resulted in such extreme concealment. Instead, a judge in the Ghislaine Maxwell case required the top federal prosecutor in Manhattan to personally certify that none of the grand jury materials contained victims' private information. That is how sensitive this material was. And yet, despite that scrutiny, page after page remains nothing but black. Now think about what that means for Oprah Winfrey. Her name reportedly appears 5 times in the Epstein-related files. But the context? Unknown. Completely hidden behind redactions. Those blacked-out sections could conceal something minor, or something devastating. But the public is not allowed to know. And here lies the contradiction. The same government that reportedly arrested Oprah Winfrey is the same government that chose to keep those pages sealed. That is not speculation. That is a documented inconsistency. The same institution claiming accountability has also withheld critical evidence for nearly 3 decades. Take Maria Farmer. She filed a complaint with the FBI in 1996. It sat untouched for years. Her sister, Annie Farmer, later revealed she was just 16 when she says she was abused by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. When those old documents finally surfaced decades later, Annie said something chilling. They had it this whole time. And that raises a question that is impossible to ignore. How many people were harmed after that warning was already in the system? That is not just a question. It is an accusation.
Every time she made a mention to hip-hop culture, it was something that was wrong with it. And it was something that was on my CD that was the largest debut in hip-hop.
And while we are talking about contradictions, let's address Ghislaine Maxwell. In July 2025, the Deputy Attorney General sat down with her for a 2-day interview. Think about that for a second, a convicted trafficker and perjurer, serving a 20-year sentence, being given a platform to deny everything. She called the photograph of Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre fake. She claimed the bathroom in her London home was too small for anything inappropriate to have happened. She insisted she had never arranged anything for anyone. The Giuffre family responded, calling Maxwell a monster who deserves to remain behind bars, and their outrage was justified. But the key issue remains. The government still gave her a microphone. The same government that is now reportedly holding Oprah Winfrey. So which version of the United States Department of Justice are we dealing with? The one that prosecutes powerful figures, or the one that allows convicted accomplices to reshape the narrative? The uncomfortable answer is both. And that contradiction sits at the heart of this entire story. Now widen the lens. Oprah Winfrey did not just appear in the Epstein-related documents and disappear. Her public history makes these allegations feel less like an isolated incident and more like a pattern catching up. Take John of God. Oprah promoted him on her show in 2010 and 2012, calling him inspiring. He was later convicted of abusing hundreds of women. Then there's Harvey Weinstein. Oprah appeared with him at events for decades, even showing public warmth at industry gatherings. When the accusations finally exploded, she said she was processing the situation, as if the rumors had not existed for years. And then come the direct critics. Seal shared a photo of Oprah with Weinstein and wrote, "You'd heard the rumors for decades, but you had no idea? My bad." 50 Cent accused her of targeting black men like Michael Jackson and Russell Simmons, while staying silent on Weinstein or Epstein. Rose McGowan called her fake, accusing her of abandoning victims. That is not just one voice. It is a pattern of criticism from multiple public figures, all pointing to the same cycle. Proximity, validation, silence, and then a carefully managed exit. So where does that leave us? The arrest is being reported. The photograph allegedly exists. Victims are leaking evidence in real time. And the history of escaping scrutiny is so well established that no one can confidently say whether this moment will be different. But here is where things shift. Victims are no longer waiting for institutions. They have seen what delay looks like: redactions, denials, and powerful figures walking away. So now they are releasing information themselves. More photographs according to sources. More testimony. More names, and some of those names are said to be extremely powerful. Which brings us to one of the most unusual threads in this entire story. Corey Feldman. The former child star spent significant personal resources producing a documentary about abuse in Hollywood. For years, he has claimed that many in the industry know far more than they admit. Now, according to unnamed sources, Feldman has been quietly gathering additional material tied to high-profile figures allegedly connected to Epstein. 2 names frequently mentioned in speculation are Ellen DeGeneres and Oprah Winfrey. To be absolutely clear, these claims are unverified and based on anonymous sources. They exist in the realm of speculation, not confirmed fact. But speculation begins to carry more weight when it appears alongside reported arrests and alleged evidence leaks.
It's everywhere, and I think for the first time, we are truly seeing evil reveal itself. Yep. You know, it's all been living in the shadows, right? It's all been living in the shadows for this whole time. None of us knew the depths of depravity that were going on, the amounts and levels of cover-up. Yep. But it's all coming out, whether they like it or not.
And part of what fuels that attention is that Corey Feldman has, at times, been validated after initially being dismissed. He named individuals in his past work. He invested heavily in bringing his claims forward. And over time, broader investigations, from industry exposés to major legal cases, have added credibility to the idea that abuse networks existed in places many once ignored. So when sources claim Feldman may release new information that surpasses what he revealed before, people are paying attention. There was even controversy during the premiere of his documentary, when the streaming platform reportedly crashed minutes after launch. Whether it was a technical failure or something else remains unclear, but it added to the sense that something unusual was unfolding. Now, if he is indeed holding more material, this situation becomes far more complex, because this story is no longer just about one alleged photograph or one reported arrest. It is expanding. Prince Andrew demonstrated that exposure does not guarantee consequences. The Department of Justice redactions show that information can still be withheld. Oprah's history suggests she has navigated crises before, and the ongoing leaks, combined with potential whistleblower claims, indicate that more revelations could still emerge. This is a moving situation, not a closed one, and that is what should concern any legal team. One piece of evidence can be managed, one allegation can be contested, but a continuous stream of claims, documents, and testimony is far harder to contain.
I propose to do this by making a film that'll be the most honest and true depiction of abuse ever portrayed, by telling my own story in a very real way.
Now let's bring everything back to the central fault line. Oprah Winfrey is reportedly facing a serious situation. A photograph allegedly links her to one of Epstein's victims, but she has stood near controversy before. With John of God, with Harvey Weinstein, with references in Epstein-related documents. Each time she emerged largely unaffected. Whether through institutional protection, public perception, or lack of evidence, the outcome was the same: she walked away. So the question remains, will this moment finally break that pattern? Or will it become just another chapter in a long history of surviving scandal? The reported arrest changes the stakes. The alleged photograph raises the pressure. But none of it matters unless the system follows through. And that system, the United States Department of Justice, has already shown two sides. One that acts and one that conceals. So what happens next? Does Oprah Winfrey walk away again? Or is this the moment where everything changes? And what would you need to see from those redacted files before reaching a conclusion? Share your thoughts, because this story is still unfolding.